Hey everybody, welcome to Wendy Bones Tarot. This is your Friday special, pick a card. So I haven't actually shuffled or pulled numerous decks the way I usually do. I'm going to just use one deck today and you'll see me shuffle on camera. So we'll look at 3 different decks. And I will also put an oracle, an earth magic oracle with the cards, with each pile. So the question for today is simply, what does the week ahead hold for me? What's going to happen in my week ahead? So I'm recording this on Friday the 21st, but of course you can apply this message to whenever you happen to view it. And it's a little bit of a different setup, but I am moving in the month of March, so things are a little different, and I look forward to setting up a new space for April where I've got a perfect setup. So here we go. Let's get into it. What does the week ahead hold for me? So I'm just going to shuffle on, well, here's, guess I shouldn't do that there. Not going to shuffle on camera. I'll shuffle behind the camera so you can hear me, but I don't want you to see the cards. So what does the week ahead, what is in my week ahead? Prominent people, events, situations, money, opportunities, fate. Let's do this. So it's kind of a different setup for me here. So 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. Okay, so let's get an oracle for pile 1. An oracle for pile 2. And an oracle for pile 3. All right, so pile 1, pile 2, pile 3. So for pile 1, let's see what we've got for the week ahead. Childhood. Innocence. And then we've got a lovely glare from everything. That's just perfect. Okay, I'll just leave it here. And I will read. I apologize for the picture quality, guys. Bear with me. Everything is kind of moving around me. So childhood, innocence. The light from the heavens falls upon the children through the rays of the sun that illuminate their presence like a spotlight. The little girl reaches out to these bright beams, and these elements together portray an idyllic childhood activity for many of us who have had the privilege of exploring the natural world. The blanket of lush meadow grass embraces a small pond which leads to a more distant valley, one that is darker and shrouded by the very clouds that also produce this remarkable play of light. In their exploration of the world, it's inevitable that these children will at some point lose their original innocence. It doesn't have to be a permanent loss, however. We don't need to live in constant fear in anticipation of such an event, nor do we have to reconcile the loss of that state of purity by constantly romanticizing the past and missing out on the present. The wisdom and faith we've accrued from our experiences are keys to recapturing that state of innocence. The light that will guide us through any dark passage is the light of spirit from within that connects us with Source. Finding our innocence once again Finding our innocence once again, we become aware that it was never lost, just forgotten. Doing everything backwards here. Innocence is not simply the lack of guilt or shame, but a quality in itself, one that you naturally possess when you first come into this existence. There are challenges you have faced throughout life that have further shaped your personality and character. You have also likely encountered moments following a disappointment or loss when you turned sour or cynical, and no doubt have had times when layers of anger or fear blocked the flow of your vitality, your life force. Yet, in spite of all this, there is a core of innocence that you can reawaken by releasing any shame that has covered over the truth of who you are. Take any opportunity to heal this shame, let it go so you can revisit that state of purity. Doing so helps you see every moment with fresh eyes and removes the filters that inhibit your light and love from coming forth. You are truly a child of God, so allow yourself to be that. And let's see what the oracle or the tarot says. Oh my gosh. Okay, you may connect with someone from your childhood. There's something beautiful that is being reawakened in you, and I'm not sure how it's being triggered. It's going to be different for all of you, but there is a feeling of massive revolution of self. It's a completion of self. And 3 aces in a reading, that's amazing. Wow. This is opportunity after opportunity. The only one that's missing is the sword, which is sort of the logic of, adult living, right? We have to use our rational minds. We have to solve problems. There's something about being driven and allowing that purity, right? That when we talk about the purity, it's just removing any sort of filters, again, or shame or anger to back to your pure self. It's this refreshing cleanse. Then we have the Ace of Wands, which is that spark. It's that imagination. It's the go-getter, like the kids that just, they wake up in the morning and they're excited to experience whatever they can experience. There's, when I talk about what opportunities or what's ahead in the week, maybe it's not an opportunity itself, but the innocence that allows you to look for opportunity. When you're not soured by mistakes or disappointments, you're like, you know what, I'm going to grab this, I'm going to run with it, and I'm going to see what I can create. And the Ace of Pentacles tells me that you will be rewarded. There's a feeling of safety here, and it's a place that allows you to embody this innocence. It's feeling safe enough to rip away those other layers that have been put on you by the experience of adult life, and sort of stripping that back and feeling safe enough to do that. And it brings you this beautiful feeling of security. So lots of new starts for those of you who chose group 1. So it's deck 1, and you've got 3 aces, which is 1111. So look for 1111, look for synchronicities of what you're thinking or what comes up at that time. 111, the numbers, anytime you see those numbers, you'll know that your thoughts, it's sort of an affirmation of what you're thinking. And yeah, new beginning, new gateways. I mean, the universe is really dealing you a beautiful hand, and you're retrieving a part of yourself that just makes you feel secure, or makes you feel complete again, I should say. Kind of like the magician when he has all the 4 experiences, or all 4 tools. It's this complete picture. So you really have a lot to work with. And, the childhood innocence, this is something I used to be very resistant to myself, because people talk about the inner child, and I was always so resistant to it. I was like, no, being a child is hard. Kids are mean, and you have to navigate, and it's like every kid for themselves. But what I've come to realize, actually, is that the inner child is just about seeing possibilities everywhere. Creating these landscapes, creating things from our imagination, believing that anything is possible, because even if you can't make it happen, tangibly, there's something creative and imaginative where you can write a story about it, or you can envision or do something artistic. I remember when my sister and I were kids, we loved the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory movie, and we always wanted to recreate that, but we couldn't, in our house. So we kind of set up the living room. We'd have these like those little plastic eggs that come with like candies and stuff inside, and we would sort of like build this imaginary factory, and we'd have like little toys that would push the eggs around, and we invented this conveyor belt, and it was just this really silly thing that we would do, because that's what kids do. They take the tools that are presented to them and they make it happen. They create the landscape. They create the reality that they want based on the resources that are right in front of them. They can see a twig and turn it into anything. It can be a magic wand. So I think that is a fucking fantastic selection. Group 1. Wow. Very cool. Very cool. I love that. So I'm just going to leave these here. Okay, group 2. Dawn, New Beginnings. Now, pardon me, I'm just going to read from the book. So dawn, the start of day, brings with it reassurance that the night has passed. It's very hard to coordinate this. There we go. Reassurance that the night has passed, making way for new opportunities, no matter what has come before. It reminds us of the predictability of the daily cycles. That first light that forecasts the sun's appearance awakens the winged ones, who sing and chirp happily at the advent of another morning. It's a time of fresh beginnings, from which we can create whatever kind of experience we desire. In this image, we see the rays of the sun stretching into the valley, while the sun itself peeks around the corner, as if it had set its course to proceed around the bend in the river, which appears relatively still from its rest during the night. This scene exemplifies renewal and new beginnings. When you witness the initial stages of dawn without the benefit of a clock, for a while you may not be able to discern whether the sky is really lightening. The stars remain visible, and shadows of the night still shape the landscape. It's that way with any beginning. It's difficult to tell where the old ends and the new begins. Gradually, however, it becomes clear to you the light is increasing, and as you continue to observe, the world slowly wakes up, accompanied by all the sounds, smells, and freshness associated with it. Soon, the first glimmer of sun shows. A new day has begun. This is a time to say farewell to the old and honor the new by releasing any self-imposed constraints or resistance to the truth that you know. This is your chance to develop that project you've been thinking about, embark on that adventure you've dreamed of going on, and take risks in initiating what your intuitive self has been telling you to do. As this prospect becomes increasingly visible and real, doubts and uncertainties may arise, but rest assured, just as dawn inevitably turns into day, by heeding your inner guidance, you will succeed. So dawn. All right, I can't wait to see what these cards will say. 7 of Pentacles, the Tower, and the 5 of Pentacles. I'm just going to turn these over so that we don't get confused with the messages. Wow, look at this. It's darkest before the dawn. You know that something has to be addressed or dealt with. And I think right now you're almost trying to control how that looks or how that's going to go. Because you seem to be in this position, you know that something is around the corner and you're thinking, I mean, you're doing what you should, really. You're thinking about, like, what's my next investment? What's the next step? But what the Tower tells you is that you can't actually decide at this moment. For some reason, there's a bigger plan in store. And the Tower is something that liberates you. It's a freedom card. I know it looks quite shocking, and sometimes it can be a blow to the ego, but it reveals something true that remains. There could be a power figure that is challenged. I feel like someone is sort of losing a position of power here, and I think you see it coming. I'm not sure if it's yours. I feel like it may be you watching someone else's downfall, and you're thinking about maybe how to capitalize on that, and that's your new beginning. Because like someone's crown is being toppled here, and they're being left without any place to turn, it seems. Now for some of you, you could be making a hasty investment. I really don't recommend that in the Mercury retrograde. I don't recommend making big moves because there's a lot of uncertainty, especially with this retrograde in Pisces. It can cause us to doubt ourselves. There's things that we've agreed to weeks ago, months ago, and now that the energy has changed in Pisces, it's sort of causing us to like swim back and forth and sort of doubt, or it's definitely worthwhile to re-examine, but try to leave it there until you get more information, because the Tower guarantees that more information is going to come. And like I said, I think there's a bigger plan here where the best thing you can do, like you may have an idea of where you'd like this money or these resources to be allocated, but I think that deal may fall through, or that we go from 7, which is like an investment. You see your money, your crops are growing, your stuff's paying off, and then all of a sudden it's like, I don't know, does someone just come into your garden? It's like when you plant all this vegetable garden, but you don't cover it. And then you see it growing, you're like, cool, tomorrow I'm going to make a beautiful salad, I'm going to have all these people over for lunch. And then you go out and like all the bunnies have chewed off the tops of all of your veggies. And now you're without. So be careful. Now this could be a very difficult situation that you may have to take on. Now, take it as it resonates because it's different for everybody watching. It's not a personal reading, so I can't say specifically, but chances are you came into this with a certain question, right? And I think there's going to be a surprise where you thought you had a sure thing, you thought you had a sure spot, and it seems to be taken away. But what I see with this thing being taken away, these cards are very closely related, and this is something I've always seen with the Tower, and this is why I love the Tower card. It seems scary, doesn't it? Black skies, we're out in the cold, we're hurt, we're lonely, we've lost everything. But this has been taken away because something else is supposed to replace it. When you see the Tower, you are going to be liberated from something that previously kept you tethered, kept you chained. Whether you felt that it was a chain or not, people learn to love their chains. This could be a habit or a pattern or some kind of thinking that has kept you in a place for a very long time. Or like, I talk about poverty consciousness with this card, and I will make a video on that. A few people have asked me to make a video on poverty consciousness, and I will. But it's kind of this mentality that can stem back all the way to childhood, where you're not used to necessarily having much. For some reason, there's a feeling of lack, and it can either come from maybe having a lot of siblings or not having a lot of money growing up, or maybe even in a sort of a split household. And there's this feeling of something missing. And so as you go through life, you sort of color your experiences with that lens. You expect something to be missing, and so those are the experiences that you seek. And you don't even do it consciously. This is something that takes like years of effort to unlearn. Now I think what actually comes, there's something racing in shortly after this. Shortly after this feeling of having lost something or going without, there is something, I don't usually do this, but just to reassure you, the Chariot was on the bottom of the deck. And I often actually see the Chariot come after the Tower. Something comes racing in to refill this space, because energetically, you've released something, and now that means you've got a void. You've got a space to fill with something new. So it's time for you to understand that dawn begins when you decide that it does. The sun will always rise again. And this card came up for Aries, which I fucking love, because Aries to me always symbolizes dawn. It's Aries people who've always inspired me to keep going, because they'll tell you the sun will always rise again. So you just have to see what tomorrow brings. And I guarantee that, like, you know, this time, Friday the 21st, let's say you're watching it, by this time next week, your experience is going to be entirely different, and you're going to have all kinds of new insight and information, and whatever is being taken from you, it's not the devil with the Five of Pentacles, remember, it's the Tower. So this is something that frees you up. It liberates you from that feeling of lack. I think some of you are actually surprised by how well you're doing, by how successful you've been. There's something quite surprising about your finances there, and I think it's a lot better than you think. I promise. So, deck 3, Meadow and Vulnerability. Now this card has a really lovely explanation. Okay, Meadow, Vulnerability. The meadow in this card invites us with its beauty and openness. The flowers have arranged themselves in a poetic design orchestrated by nature, and the lush rolling fields urge us to relax and stay for a while. Yet for some, the idea of being in such an open space is terrifying, and in an expansive meadow like this, we may feel exposed and defenseless, lacking the perceived safety of an enclosed area. But for others, walking through a meadow can be a very satisfying experience. We can feel comfortable in the openness and visibility, enjoying the view with nothing but sky above. We may still feel vulnerable, but with a twist. This is vulnerability built on the foundation of trust rather than fear. The capacity to trust our own instincts to tell us if there are any potential threats we must respond to. By relying on this instinctual knowing, we can relax and enjoy the beauty that surrounds us. You are in a place now where you can take risks with your feelings and take risks with the truth of who you are, the truth you know in your heart and soul. You no longer need to be subjected to your conditioned fears of letting others know who you really are. Yes, others may judge, evaluate, criticize, and sometimes put you down. These are very real possibilities. But by trusting that you have the strength to deal with those reactions, rather than responding adaptively and always playing it safe, you can more confidently allow yourself to be vulnerable. Always holding back from expressing your truth can create an illusion of safety, but armed with your trust and your faith, you can choose to be vulnerable and share your authentic self with the world. Wow. Okay, let's see what these cards have to tell us. Actually wanted to read this. Four of Cups, Knight of Swords, and the High Priestess. It's really interesting because, like, this exact thing, right? You're denying a part of yourself. It's like you're choosing to ignore it like it's something that you don't want to share with other people, so you may even be denying it to yourself. And I feel that this week you're on the wind of change. The wind of change is coming in. There's something deep inside that is being revealed that you feel and that you know intuitively that you're able to tap into now. I think you're having a little more confidence in what you believe. We can all look at the High Priestess card and think, yes, intuition. But it's one thing to be aware that we have the ability of intuition. It's a whole other thing to actually tap into it and feel it. So when this card talks about tapping into the instinct, right? Feeling safe because you learn to trust your instincts and you trust your intuition, that they will lead you in the right direction. They will warn you if there's danger, and it will, I promise it will. And so this is about you reawakening that part of yourself that you haven't really looked at for a long time. You haven't honored it, but it's time, it's waking up. I mean, the High Priestess is rushing in to alert you, to wake you up to something. Now, I will say something else about these cards. There's someone that you haven't seen in a while. Like, you're not on speaking terms. There's a silence between the two of you, and this person is going to message you sometime this week. You're going to hear from someone you haven't heard from. And they do say that with the, Mercury retrograde, that happens. So maybe there's a new vulnerability coming from that person where they admit to you, hey, this is what's been going on with me. I'm going to be honest with you. And then you sort of feel safe to do that reciprocally. But you don't need another person to initiate that for you. This is about self. This is about trusting the self. And that quiet whisper that you probably ignore because you're paying more attention to the loud, these are two different messengers here. We have a very loud, quick, screaming on Instagram type of thing, like posting constantly and being in people's faces and loud and causing winds of change, right? Like, this is so windy and whipped up. Even the horse looks a little bit worried. And then we have the High Priestess, who is just very calmly there. It's the quiet whisper in your stomach. That's intuition. You're only going to hear it once or twice, so you really have to be open to hearing it. And the more and more you open up and learn to trust this intuition, the louder it becomes and it trumps everything else. I want to say one more thing about this. Dream work is a big way that you can work to heal. If you are interested in doing lucid dreaming or any sort of healing work in the dream realm, you can actually train yourself to lucid dream and to sort of revisit certain experiences or places and almost relive them or rewrite the script. And I think, it's funny because this guy looks like he's sitting in a meadow. And, oh, here comes something on the wind. Oh, is it danger? Is it a message? Are storm clouds coming in? I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean is it going to rain? Do I have to pack up and go home? And, the High Priestess is really allowing you to listen in and know exactly what you have to do. Wow. So I think I'll leave that there, everybody. Thank you so very much for watching. And I thank you for your patience during my move. I'm not sure how many pick a cards I'll get out in March. I'll try to do them every Friday as usual. I did take a break last Friday because it was Valentine's and I was busy, if you know what I mean. But I'm back and I'll try to keep up with them even through the move. and I'll resume personal readings and regular bi-weekly readings in April. I'm currently just posting all the signs now. I've got Libra and Scorpio coming out today, and then Sagittarius, Capricorn, and Aquarius will be posted likely on Sunday the 23rd. So I thank you all so very much. I hope you have a fantastic week. There's some big changes and opportunities. Remember, Mercury is retrograde, and that's part of the reason these things are coming up. It's allowing you to take a second look and to figure out how you feel and to rework your relationship with your intuition and your psychic self. That's what Pisces is all about. So again, I thank you, I love you all, and I hope you have a great week.